I'm Mike Zwingman. I'm Director of Agronomy for Verdesian Life Sciences. I'm located in Nebraska. I have a background in corn and soybean operation up in Northeast Nebraska, and I'll be moderating this discussion today between my colleagues. And so we go around and everybody introduce themselves, starting with Dave. You want to introduce yourself, and we'll go from there for everybody.
All right, Dave Schwartz. I live in central Iowa. I'm the VP of Strategic Retail and been with the company now and previous companies related to Verdesian 20 years. And farming, been doing that all along. Farming the family farm, bought another farm beside it, and grow corn. And I'm a continuous corn farmer, 100% no-till, 100% cover crop. Big in water quality and soil health. And Verdesian products have helped me increase my yields almost 100 bushel to the acre since I've been playing with them over the last 15, 20 years. And a pleasure to be here.
My name is Andy Ulmer. I am key account manager for Southeast. I live in Middle Tennessee. Grew up on a corn, soybean, wheat rotation farm. We also had beef cattle and lots of sheep, and been around farming my whole life, and been with Verdesian for about going on at 9 years. We currently have a large mama cow herd we run now, but when I think about Verdesian products, I think about how they've helped increase forage, because really that's what cattle people are. We're forage farmers, and so we look for every advantage we can do to do that, and we use quite a bit of the lineup of Verdesian to help increase that.
I'm Kevin Wickham. I'm an account manager for Southern Illinois. I have been with Verdesian about 6 years. My love for farming started with my grandfather owning and running a fertilizer company. I helped him through my younger years, and then actually took an internship there after I were going to college, and after that, helped him on his family farm, and then here about 6-7 years ago, I was able to start my own farm up that my father-in-law had retired, so I took it over. I raise corn, soybeans, and grain sorghum. I like the benefit of trying Verdesian's products and being able to see that firsthand. I think that really makes my confidence level go up a lot, because I can assure my retail that I'm calling on that I have seen these products firsthand and have all the confidence behind them.
Justin Meyer. I'm located in central Nebraska. I'm an account manager here on the eastern third of the state for the most part. I've been with Verdesian a little over 2 weeks now, so fairly new, but I came from retail ag and have been using Verdesian products and testing them out in local environments. In my operation, I grow corn, soybeans, and have a small cattle herd, and looking forward to seeing what we can do on some sand around here.
What are the biggest challenges you're facing on your farm today?
Profitability, being able to grow enough yield and be able to find the price that we can get for that crop that sustains us and keeps us going. That's my number one concern.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know here in our area in the last 2 weeks, some of the fertilizer prices have really jumped, and a lot of people were expecting it to maybe go the other way just with the commodity price where it was at. And biggest concern is how to keep that fertilizer where you're putting it for the year. And we haven't had any moisture to speak of here in Nebraska, so it could be a tough challenge here.
Biggest challenge is managing input cost. Obviously, we've talked about fertilizer a little bit, but it's just figuring out our best ROI. I mean, I cannot complain about cattle prices right now at all, but the inputs of everything it takes to get to that cattle finished, those calves finished, is a lot higher than it has been. So it's managing our input costs and then trying to be sure we invest in what has the best ROI. That's kind of the biggest challenge for me right now.
I would agree with Andy there. It's all about the ROI. The grain markets has been kind of sluggish. We have got a little bit of rebound, but these products that we sell and actually use, we're all about yield, right? And we've got to have the yield, even though the price is low. We've got to have the yield to get bushels. So and bushels is what pays the bill.
To Andy's point, the cost of not just the cost of inputs, right, but labor, fuel, interest. I mean, costs across the board have gone up. It's really hard to get to where you want to be when the price of everything has jumped up the way it has in the last few years.
And that's a little bit, Mike, too. Like for us, in the beef industry, people say, boy, you're making a lot of money now on cattle prices. That may be, the cattle prices are great, but my feed's $100 a ton higher this year than it was last year, even though corn's cheaper. So it's all the stuff that takes to go into it, to make it that affects it. Like you said, diesel's $5 this week. So I have to put that into effect, when we're driving and hauling cattle. So a lot of things to think about.
With all the new tools and new products and everything that's coming onto the market, how do you stay informed and make just, increasingly complex decisions in your operation in today's ag landscape?
Well, it starts with being aware and paying attention to a lot of things. This fertilizer market has taken a sharp increase here lately. That's why prepaying early and locking prices in was important for me on seed and chem and fertilizer. That already looks like a heck of a bonus for doing that. And then the other thing is, I guess, when it comes to fertilization, if you got soil test levels that are optimum or high, cutting back on the phosphorus is probably a good option. And adding some different products that like we offer. We're talking about, using some bioactivator and some Avail. And of course, we stabilize every pound of nitrogen applied, no matter whether it's liquid or dry, and cutting back on some of those units because we're putting it on at different times of the season and stabilizing it. That has made a big difference. And I think we're probably doing it a little better than the average guy because we're paying attention to every practice that we do. We're making sure that we got efficiency in every one of them.
I would kind of go off of what Dave said as far as prepaying. I know from, prepaying my anhydrous price, it's over $100 a ton now, higher now versus when I prepaid it. No different than the fungicides and some of the biostimulants and stuff like that as well, right? I've been in this industry for 25 years and know that a lot of these products work and gain you yield, but it takes that emotional decision out of that in the summertime, right? When you're getting ready to apply them. It's hard to write that check in the summertime because you don't want to get rid of that, right? But in the back of your mind after seeing these products and doing field trials and MAT trials and all that stuff, that it truly does make a difference on your bottom ROI. So, prepaying has been a big thing for me. It does take that emotional decision out of it.
I guess for me, the difference has been talking to people that are in different positions other than what I am, seeing what they're seeing as far as some of the procurement guys on the cost of some of the fertilizer, and staying in touch with contacts throughout the industry to try and make an informed decision. And all of us are trying to make the best decision we can with what we got and trying to give us the best advantage we can by connecting all the dots.
I think the key, at least for me, is thinking about, using the word regenerative, for example. I cannot, Kevin mentioned the word emotion. I cannot farm for today. I have to farm for tomorrow. I have to farm for the future. And when you're thinking about that, you have to take that emotion out, but also you have to do some forward thinking, some hedging, some placing, some thinking about what it looks like 6 months from today and what you can expect. And by the same token, I treat my soil the same way. I'm not farming for today. If I get in the mindset where I farm for today, I'll not put the inputs I need to put because I'll get emotionally tied up in my checkbook today. What I have to do is think about what's going to happen next year if I don't take care of the soil today. What's going to happen next year if I don't take care of my cattle or be able to feed or be able to produce or whatever it needs to be to get by. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is just thinking forward. If not, you get caught up in the expenses and things today.
I think there's a couple things that go into play. Is like I think surrounding yourself with a good team of professionals to, tell you hard things is a great way to help make decisions. And then also, like you've all said, like taking the emotion out of it as much as you can. Like it's really hard to separate the farming lifestyle from the farming business. I think the better you can do that by thinking about the long run, is beneficial to making those decisions. What's one decision you made on your farm that had a major impact, either good or, I think probably a bigger lesson is bad?
For me, last year we experienced a new disease that we had never had in a long time called southern rust, and I've been getting along really good using nutritional products and avoiding using fungicides, and didn't use the fungicide this year, and it cost me dearly. So it's probably one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my farming career.
I guess for me, it's been on some of our sand and stuff. After we grow soybeans, there's not a lot of residue left. We come back with cover crop, and most years it's a good thing. The last 2 years, it's been so dry. We get really uneven emergence in the spring after we'll go in and strip till and plant, and we can't keep consistent moisture. We tried no tilling after it as well to try and conserve a little bit of that moisture, and haven't had great luck getting even emergence that way either. So trying to pick and choose where we can go with the cover crop that we have, sprinkler irrigation, pivot irrigation, instead of gravity irrigation, to be able to make that work a little better.
Well, mine's kind of, I can think of lots of little things, not too many major ones, I guess, but I know like my answers are probably different from a lot of people's on this because we're talking about different things. But I held back last year. I didn't fall fertilize, and it cost me a lot on stockpile fescue, and it's what we have to rotational graze through the fall. And I waited around on the weather. That's one mistake I've made in the past few years. I've also made a mistake not, I'll admit, watching the price of potash on Bermuda grass and how important that is, a drought tolerance and regenerative growing back, and things. And so those are two kind of, they're not big mistakes, but small mistakes that have cost me a little bit. And the third one is a positive, I'll say, where we really started picking up some grass yields was when we started adding micronutrients, paying more attention to that in our grass crops. And so those are three small ones, but nonetheless, they're things that have changed our operation, good and bad.
How do you guys evaluate whether something new is worth trying on your farm? Like like all the new equipment and products and tools and gadgets and gizmos and software packages. How do you guys come about making sure it's right for you?
As far as like new products are concerned, there's been a lot of them that I haven't thought that, there's much merit to it at all. But I think you got to be open-minded, right? Because what are you missing? If there's some products out here that they're bringing to you, a lot of them has been tested a lot of times and they've showed a positive ROI somewhere, right? So I think you got to be open-minded and just look at some things that, rather that be something that would fit in the application if you're already going over something, right? Or in the fertilizer, maybe not additional cost to make an extra trip, but something that it wouldn't take too much to add that to a pass. And I think that's key because, there's application cost. These retail guys, they've got to pay their bills too. So I just look for things that fit on that farm, fit on my farm that's easy to use. And it looks like that there's a lot of benefit to it.
For me, it's fine tuning my planter. Mike, I got to give you credit. You got me started. You helped overhaul my planter many years ago, and I've been keeping up every year. I try to add something new attachment wise to my planter to increase my efficiency with that planter. And I will say that has paid me some good dividends. So equipment's one thing, data keeping track of my data, having a planner that'll shut off with the shutoffs on it so you're not over planting into the end rows. That's saved on seed. It's also helped improve yield by not having extra plants out there. I went to the furrow jets this last year, and that nice way to place my starter. I really like those, and I've been able to incorporate some insecticide with that since I'm a corn on corn farmer, and that was a very a nice addition. And I'd run double 2x2 and in furrow. I put all my phosphate on with the planter, and that has been a big. That's not very many people do that. I kind of learned that from a couple of high yield guys by the name of Randy Dowdy and David Hula that I used to deal with. You got to have phosphate on both sides of that plant. You don't need it anywhere but there. And so that's really helped my yields a lot. And then micronutrients and sulfur has been the other things that have really brought my yields along.
As for myself, when I'm evaluating what to try or what kind of results I'd expect, like Kevin said, there's a lot of information. They don't just come out with a new product with no information on it. And I'm kind of looking for the products that are tested into a similar environment to what I'm active in here. Then try those products on maybe on a smaller scale for the first year or two, because it seems like as different as every year is, you're not going to learn anything from just 1 year of it, in my experience. So trying it for 2 or 3 years before going whole hog. And then, after that first year, expand the area you try it on, get across multiple environments, and then evaluate it from there.
So I have to decide logistically if it works for me. I think Kevin had an awesome point. Like if we can throw it in the tank with something else, if we're making a trip across the field already doing something, I mean that's a big cost with today's input costs and looking at that. I think too, when I look at a product, I try to like farm the acres. So like there's different acres I have that I know may respond to different things. And so, I may go right back to the soil test. Hey, if I look at this product, is it going to help me do A, B, C, or D accomplish that? But I enjoy reading data, but to me, data is only as good as that field on that year. And so we really have to be careful of that. So just about every product I've promoted or talked about with Verdesian, it's been used at my house. And I try it maybe small scale first year, whatever. Usually in a difference, between what Justin's talking about, if grass responds with or without water, it's probably going to respond the same the next year. And so I've kind of got a heads up on some other guys on this call, but nonetheless, it's a little bit of trial. And if I hear something from a good neighbor, or somebody in the industry I respect in the Cattlemen Association or whatever, or Forage Council, work with, if I hear from them too, that's a little bit more trustworthy than I say, an article or an ad or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's my job, right? Is to evaluate products. So, I get a little bit different experience than everybody else does with getting to see them in multiple situations, and I get to compress multiple years into a space of time. So, but still, I think the big things is like operationally, does it fit? Like Kevin said, do acre wise, like understanding the mode of action, and does it fit what I'm trying to do? And then really is like after that is the yield gonna show up? And I think those things, does it make me more money? Does it make me my life easier? Does it make everything better? I think is the big things it has to answer. What do you think practices, technology, or inputs have made the biggest impacts on your operations?
Well, I would say no-till for sure made a big impact. I've got some really hilly land that had erosion issues, and by going no-till, I've really reduced that, and then cover cropping behind it. That's really eliminated my erosion issues, and that's a big one. Then managing the inputs, Avail's done me a wonderful job. I've got high magnesium levels in my soils. My phosphorus responds greatly to Avail. The Nutrisphere has been a great product to stabilize my nitrogen and keep nitrogen in the plant all the way through grain fill. Sulfur has become a much bigger deal over the past few years, and I'm adding more sulfur every year, seems like, and it seems like it's responding to that. So I've always said I've been doing this on my farm for about 20 years, and it's been brick by brick by brick, building yield. And I have people bring me new products all the time to try. A lot of them outside of Verdesian startup companies that want me to try stuff. They've heard that I'm willing to do that kind of thing. And so we do try a lot of different things. Some of them have turned out to be pretty cool. Others gone 1 year, done. You don't see a thing. But if you don't try stuff and you don't look at how you're trying to build your farm, I think we're all trying to leave it to the next generation better than we found it. And to me, it's just all about doing small things, one baby steps at a time, but learning as you go and adding the things to it that make sense. Like Andy Ulmer says, it's got to make sense and it's got to fit your field. So what fits mine don't fit some of the rest of his.
It's kind of along the technology line for me. Having all the trials and stuff is great, but if you don't have a way to track it, doesn't really do you a lot of good. And as far as some of the imagery and how to capture data and use it, has made a difference for us. It's been a struggle working with my dad. My uncles are a little older than me, a little more resistant to the technology, but since they've bought in and we've been able to track, trials with the planter and various other things and be able to come back and overlay that on the yield map and make sure it's actually doing what we think it's doing and what it should be doing, has made a big difference as far as what's working and not working in our operation.
I'd say one of the changes I've made to my operation, it's been a few, but one thing is the ridge till. Water can hurt us just as much as it can help us here in the southern part of Illinois with these tight clay soils. So, getting that plant up out of the water, the wet soils, that type of environment. As far as products go, the one that there's a couple here that I've really seen a lot of benefit. Seed Plus Graphite. It's done a fabulous job of getting them plants up to a good start, even emergence, quicker emergence. I've seen a lot of benefit out of it. And then as far as the post application, the Takeoff LS, putting that on post soybeans, we get even a lot of times even a 5 to 7 day earlier canopy out of that. So when we talk about weed pressure, water hemp is a major concern here in southern Illinois. If we can get that canopy up and get it closed, it sure helps on our weeds longer in the growing season.
If you're talking about practices, Mike, that change, first I would tell you that, and Dave will remember this, but in the forest business, we thought the world was coming to an end when nitrate was going away. And when we learned that Nutrisphere could stabilize nitrogen all season long, like season long, that was a game changer for us to be able to control and manage our nitrogen a little bit better. Also, the use of micros, and as I mentioned earlier, was a big deal. But and a couple more practices would be this: soil testing more often, and tissue testing. I mean, it doesn't matter how much you invest or throw out there on top of the ground. If it's not getting into the plant, we've done nothing. And so we've tried to look at what practices are we using, what fertilizer we're using, what timing are we using to make sure that it's physiologically getting into the plant as we need it to and producing yields, That's the big thing. And I will throw into, like Dave mentioned, the use of sulfur and ammonium sulfate, especially to kind of replace that green up that we were missing earlier with nitrate. Those are some practices that changed for us and to the good.
Yeah, I think you guys hit on them all, right? Like I think between technology and then new products and really thinking about how we do things has changed the game. I think I said it at a meeting with Dave a couple weeks ago. The yield increases in the last 30 years has been somewhat accounted to genetics, but I think it's mostly to our improved management of timings and just information and soil and everything else. So I think the strides we've made in my career from a yield standpoint are mostly on adopting new practices, technologies, and thinking about how we use inputs.
Well, it's probably combinations, Mike. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you think about these varieties that have changed so much, they are so much more dependent on timing and rates and things like that. And we've all learned to like spoon feed our crops, and pay more attention to them because they need different nutrients. So these levels that we're pulling off, these yields today are crazy good. We've adapted to learn how to feed them better, I think, in the industry.
Yeah, Andy, you and I are, you have about the same background, right? Remember when we used to talk about workhorse and racehorse hybrids
Oh,
in
yeah.
corn?
Yeah.
There's no workhorse hybrids anymore. They're all some speed of faster racehorse, right? Like there's no like, well, put this on your really poor ground and it'll hold the line. No, it's like we expect every acre to yield, so it's all no more. There's no more plow horses. It's all race horses, right? Like, and I think that's, and we've managed to meet that, right? Like, I think we've looked at acres differently than we did before too. Like we don't have acres that we feel are trash or less managed. We just have found new ways to manage through the problem, and I think that's probably one of the biggest changes we've made, like I said, in the last 30 years. So what role do biologicals or nutrient use efficiency tools play in your current approach, and why are micronutrients worth the investment?
Well, I can tell you from my experience on my farm is that micronutrients added another 10 to 15 bushel the acre. I didn't realize how depleted I must have been in those once I started incorporating in them. And I use them in my double 2x2 and in furrow. So I'm putting them right by the plant. And we did grain samples off of some of my crops in those early years when we were doing them. We were finding very high levels of phosphorus and micronutrients in my grain samples. And I do believe there's going to come a time down the road when quality of grain is going to be rewarded with a premium as we move farther and farther down the road here. I think that's what we're all striving for. And that's been a big one for me. What was your other part of the question, Mike?
Biologicals and nutrient efficiency tools.
Well, I'm using every nutrient use efficiency tool we have right now, but on the biological side, I've started playing with them several years ago, and um, they've been a little sporadic. I think we got a little more to learn. I think there's probably some product improvements that need to be made, but we are seeing continued use of them on the same acre is showing some benefit. It's not, you can't expect to apply it once and expect to see wonders. I think it's continued use of them over that same acre is going to improve. And I think we need to start taking Haney tests or soil health tests to show the difference in what a biological is doing. Because I do believe that'll be rewarded in the 45Z program down the road. If you can show how you've improved soil health, that is going to lower your CI score.
I guess in my area, some of the nutrient use efficiency tools have been important in the sand, especially on nitrogen. We're not able to fertilize in the fall. Everything goes on in the spring. And if we do get a rain, it's gone fairly quick. I'm not sure you other guys how much sand you got, but I know ours is a powder sugar sand and just doesn't hold anything. And then as far as the biologicals, on our higher producing acres where you're going to get the yield out of it, it has been beneficial. We've seen good benefits from that and good yield returns. But we do have some other fields with other underlying issues, the pH issues and things like that, where we're not getting a return and we're investing those dollars where we do.
I would say on the nutrient use efficiency pieces, with high cost of nitrogen phosphates, why not get the most you can out of them products and protect them, right? Seen a lot of advantages over one of our products called Trident did a lot of testing with that, and look, it keeps that nitrogen where it needs to be, and it's there for the plant to be able to take that up. As far as micronutrients, there's a lot of people in I would say the state of Illinois, especially in the southern part of Illinois, that's not replacing any of their micronutrients, right? With MicroSync, it's a product that you can put in the fertilizer. anywhere from a 10 to 15 pound rate. It supplies all your micronutrient needs, depending on the rate you want, up to as high as the yield that you raise. So it's just a one easy step to add it in with the fertilize. It's a blended type product, very, very user friendly, and we've seen a lot of benefit. And I've seen a lot of benefit out of MicroSync.
So on the nutrient use efficiency piece, a couple different things. I've seen Avail do wonders for our region, for our area, on quality, on maturity, on hay ground, and bringing things to maturity quicker. I will tell you that takes me right into discussion about micros. I've seen a big correlation between my zinc levels and how that Avail performs and how the zinc counteracts with that. And so paid a lot of attention to that. We've also paid attention to our TDNs on forage testing. And as we have swapped over to urea and started stabilizing that, our TDNs have actually increased, our crude proteins increased. And so that's a big deal. I mean, people think about, green is protein, Mike, it's what it's all about. And so if we can keep things greener longer and things like that, we think about that. But as far as biological, I'm more about the biostimulant piece, I guess, for us. I'm looking at things like Crop Plus. I'm looking at things like Takeoff. We now use, Mike, we use C Plus on all of our fall tilled fescue because we know we're going to drill into a really tough, dry situation and pray for rain. And so we put C Plus on everything we do out in the fall. I think back to the micros real quickly. We call them micros, but we maybe shouldn't because they have macro results. And boron is one of those things too. I left off a minute ago. Like if I look at my clover production and quality of hay and pay attention to my boron levels, that's a big piece. So everything you mentioned there are big factors for us.
So moving on, I guess we throw the word regenerative and sustainability gets used quite a bit in agriculture. What do you guys feel the misconceptions about sustainability in general for agriculture are today?
You're right. Those words get thrown around a lot. And the regenerative, there are some guys, the Gabe Browns and guys like him have got quite a following. That is going 100% pretty much without using any commercial fertilizer, relying on the soil to provide everything. There's certain guys like Andy. Maybe you could go regenerative down there with a cattle operation. Maybe that could work. In Nebraska and Iowa, where we're row cropping lots of millions of acres, Illinois, I don't see that taking over. But the sustainability piece, where we're doing cover crop, no-till, strip till, to me, that's where we're moving the needle upward. And then cutting back on our inputs, by protecting them is also another way. I sit on 2 water quality boards here in the state of Iowa. Just had a big meeting today, and they're talking about, how we're polluting the rivers with our high nitrate levels. Well, I can tell you the nitrate levels coming out of tile lines is going to be dependent on the kind of weather you had that year. And there's a couple thousand pounds of nitrogen in every acre of soil that we have here, and it's not all from the commercial fertilizer we're applying. So there's a lot more to that piece. But I think what we've done a lot of improvement on is the split applying of nitrogen, adding the stabilizers, and minimum tillage. We've done a lot of good things in the last 10 years that have made big strides towards sustainable agriculture. And I'm glad Verdesian's played a part in that.
I'd agree with that. I feel like the products like Trident and Avail, Free Up, those type things are making it so we don't have to put as much fertilizer on. We get more benefit out of what we are putting on, get a better ROI overall, which is, the overall goal.
I don't have a lot to add to that one. I would echo what Justin said there. Basically, protect our nitrogen, do more with less, right? So that's kind of where I stand on that topic.
I think we do use both the words way too much. I think sustainability means you're just doing that. You're sustaining what you're doing. And I think all of us on this call would like to say we're trying to do something more than just sustaining. And if we want to grow more yield, we have to be, or at least at our house, we have to be a little bit regenerative. And when I say regenerative, I don't mean not applying fertilizer. I'm talking about returning more than what I'm trying to take off and doing that for the future. And we do that by manure distribution, Mike. We do that by the way we feed our hay in the winter. We do that by different ways. We pay attention to soil health, but just in general, I think people sling both those words out there too much. I think, like I mentioned earlier, and Dave would agree, we have to think about kids, grandkids, those taking this over. And if we just simply, do what Dad did and we simply sustain, then that's all we're ever going to have. And if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. And we have to get out of that mindset, I think, a little bit. So that's my thoughts on it.
I mean, my comment to that is I think the biggest misconception is that farmers aren't already doing better than they were a generation prior to. Like totally I look at nitrogen rates versus yields, for the past 40 years. We're probably almost twice as efficient at using nitrogen today than we were in 1986, right? So I even in 1996. So for every decade we've gotten better and better and better. So I think that the first assumption is that when we say that, it just means we're out, not like growers are out not caring about the environment. No, we wouldn't have got to where we are today without already being sustainable. I think that the difference is like, what are the things we can do better? Like Andy said, what are the constant improvement things we can do that improve for future generations, our bottom line, and everything else. So just wrapping up with a few last questions, right? Like, I think what's an example of your experiences, as a grower or throughout the industry as a whole, that's shaped a product recommendation or conversation with a customer?
Well, I'm like several of the others here. I try everything on my farm before I ever go out and sell it. Mike, you know that. You've worked with me over the years on that, and that's why we have field days at my farms, because I want more people evaluating what I see. Do you see what I see? And to me, that makes you qualified to go out and represent the product in the correct way. Just because somebody says it's going to do this, well, here's what it did on my farm, and that has had a lot of credibility, and I think the rest of you will agree. When you speak from that pulpit, here's what I did, and you might have some pictures and some results of your own to show. That goes a long ways towards getting other people to want to jump in and try.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Also, I've been there, I've done that, I've tried it. I don't recommend it in this situation, but that I would, because this is where I've tried it and this is where I know it works, and adding that credibility with either the retailer or another grower to show I do care. I'm not just trying to push that product to get a couple more bucks.
I think it comes down to trust and confidence, right? For one, you've got to build the trust with the people that you're selling with, and I think I've got that. But if you have the confidence in the product and you've tried it yourself, they have questions. You can, you know what it is, you know what it does, you've seen how it affects the plant, right? How does it? There's just a lot of answered questions that you can get by watching them products through a growing season.
One of the greatest opportunities I think we have is to talk about how our products, for lack of better words, create the opportunity for good things to happen. We may apply something and 3 months later we have really, extreme weather change, or really have extreme whatever it may be. Lots of other things can happen. But what Verdesian does is create opportunities for good things to happen. And so in my experiences with the products, Mike, I've went to people's fields, we've dug roots, we've taken stalk diameters, we've done tissue testing, we've done all those things. And it's just nothing better than to sit there and look with a farmer that is also a friend and say, hey, man, we can see some differences here. And 9 times out of 10, they pay off. But I said, there's lots of things that can happen, but what we have to do is create the opportunity for good things to happen. And having those conversations with growers with confidence because you've seen it for the other people, that's a good day. That's a real good day.
So I guess the last question, right, like in the closing comments is, as we start getting ready for a new planting season, right? Like, Andy, they're probably pretty close to starting where you're at, to us being a couple weeks away from it up here. What are you guys the most optimistic for in agriculture right now?
Well, I guess I'm hoping that the Congress will pass the year-round ethanol issue so we can sell E15 year-round in all states. That would grind another 2.9 billion bushels of corn, which would help our oversupply a lot. And the other thing is 45Z. I keep waiting for more clarifications on that one. I did qualify for that a couple years ago, and I'm looking forward to getting our local ethanol plants in shape so they can start offering the premiums that this thing can give us if you got a low CI score. And I think that's created a lot of hope in our area.
I think mine would be, you've got one crop every year, right? So it's give it your all and use stuff that works, right? And don't cut back, do what you think's smart, but we've got to have the yield part of it. So do everything you can to get the most out of it.
Mine's kind of along those lines too. I guess it's something that I always look forward to what can we learn from this year. Every year's got something different about it. What can we learn this year, even if our change is small and on a small scale, what can we learn from it? And there's always that opportunity to learn something.
I will go just a tad bit different, so I'm not repetitive. I'm excited. I think one of the things that we saw, if there was a good thing that came out of COVID, Mike, it was this. People learned more about agriculture and where stuff came from because they were out and about. They got back outside. I will say that I'm excited about some organizations in the United States right now that are making sure that we're, they're seeing more farm to table, that people are understanding where things come from. I feel better about agriculture today and our young people than I did 10 years ago. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I know, we don't have a lot of control. There's nothing that anybody on this call can do about the price of corn tomorrow, really, with this snap of your fingers. But one thing we can do is educate our youth and get them more farm minded and agricultural minded and be sure that they're excited and understand more about this industry that we're in. And I look forward to that.
For me, Dave heard me say this a couple weeks ago. To me, it's the people. Like, I think the one thing about economies like this that we learn is the professionals that stick around are the ones who want to be here and the ones who want to continue being part of farming operations from the professional standpoint. As far as like the economics go, like I'm sitting here looking at December corn cash prices locally here at hovering around 450. So I don't think the year's completely lost, right? Like, I think there's some opportunity here to make things look a little bit brighter if we just pay attention to the swings in the market that gives us the opportunity to do that. I also know that like warm weather cures all problems. Like January and February are pretty dark months in agriculture because it's cold and dark most of the time. But days are getting a little longer, birds are chirping, grass is greening up. Farmers are optimistic by nature, right? Like they farm on faith and trust that they're going to put in a crop and it's going to happen. I think we're going to put in a crop here in a couple weeks, and nobody's going to want to do it to lose. So I think all the trepidation of fertilizer prices and everything else can go out the door here in a little bit, and it's going to be time to stomp on the gas pedal and move forward. And I think that's the greatest part of about our industry, right? Is like we get another chance every spring to be better than we were before. And I think this is just another one of those chances. So thank you guys for your time and your answers to the questions. And yeah, this was fun.
Be on with y'all.